We all know that video is an essential part of a marketing strategy now, and there's no one better, more dynamic to talk about video strategy than my friend Tracy Haft of Amplify 11. Please give a warm round of applause for Tracy Haft. Cheers, my friend. Cheers.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this session where we're going to focus on how you can win with video. Now, let's start by translating that to say this is how you can win on social media. Because let's be honest, video is what is moving the needle now. Whether you're interested in YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whatever it is that you're trying to grow, this is the key. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about your content strategy and how you can get better and more successful on those platforms. I decided the approach we're going to take is we're going to give you the very important kind of strategic mold of what we have found is kind of the key to the most successful people on social media and how they've done what they do and how they're growing today. In fact, this is exactly the curriculum, for lack of a better word, that I use to train my own staff. And at Amplify 11, we focus on this industry for the most part. We have about 20 or 30 of the brands you'll walk through, the big brands out there. They're our clients, and we help them with their social media, help develop their people. And this is the same thing we teach them. We work with all the major influencers in this industry. This is what we've done to help them kind of raise their game. These are the things that we've found work. Now, the way I approach that, because I want to have you have a perspective of what we're learning from here, is the idea that I believe in is we want to learn from what has worked. So we model what works. So the data that I've used to put this together, you can use yourself. And here's how I do it. We've paid attention to, we actually scanned about 100,000 videos from thousands of creators, ranging from our industry to the Mr. Beasts and the big creators outside of our industry. And we looked at what they are doing and trying to find a common thread, something that I could share with you, something that I could share with my clients that anyone could apply. So that is what we've done to come up with what we would consider the top 10%, kind of their secrets, the tactics that they use. So hopefully you don't mind that what we're going to do this morning is give you kind of a mindset and a strategy approach to content creation and your content calendar, and hopefully some of you will rethink how you prioritize your time and what you're doing in video and social media in general. Some of you will want to just start over again and completely redo it. And the thing is, I want you to be open-minded and really be willing to learn some of these things that might be outside of what you normally would think of. That's the framework of where we're going, and I want you to be ready for that. So what I found in the research that we did, there was something that all these successful top 10% accounts and creators had in common, okay? They all understood, they all had this one, what I would call foundational truth, that they understand that quite honestly, just knowing as many people as I talk to, probably most of you in this room don't either understand the truth, don't know this truth, or you do know it and you're not living with it. So we're going to spend some time helping you understand this foundation. And then what we found is these very successful creators also have these kind of 4 pillars of what they prioritize in their content creation strategy, and that's the other thing we're going to make sure that you understand today. So we're going to start with a foundation, and we're going to go to the 4 pillars. So the foundation that everyone here needs to embrace and learn, and if I do a good job, by the time you go out of here, you'll know whether you have or if you need to or what has to happen here, is what determines if you win on social media today? It's a really important question that you've got to embrace. And so I liken it to, let's say you wanted to learn how to play a game, whether that's basketball or football, whether it's chess, Monopoly, Uno. If you go in and you don't know the rules, if you don't know how to score, if you don't know how your opponent scores, how good will you get? Okay? Or, in this case, the more best example I can give is, what if you learned one of those games, but you didn't like the rules? So you thought they didn't apply to you. Well, you don't get to score the points. You don't get to make the rules of the game. And social media that's what's happening. A lot of people they don't like the rules. They don't like what is actually creating winning, and they're not applying it. And so that's what we're going to start with, is this foundational truth of what creates winning. So I'm going to show you this little example, and we're going to kind of build and grow on from here. So the first thing I want to talk about is we're talking about you doing one video post for your account. Now, the first thing that's different about that than most people would expect if we're learning how to make you more successful on social media is we are talking about one post. You notice I'm not starting by talking about how your account profile looks or your different things related to this big picture branding of your account. We got to win. We have to win one video at a time, one post at a time. So that's the first rule of what actually works today, what actually matters. Okay, so here's how that goes from there. You make that one post, okay? As soon as you make that post, the algorithms, in split seconds in some cases, are going to start to identify what that video is about and who it's for. Their technology's gotten so incredibly good. They're watching the videos. They're literally to where they see what's on your T-shirt and all these other things. They're identifying what you're saying, all that information, what you've put in the description, what your general account is about. And from that, in a split second, they determine what they think that video is about and who they think it's for. And they then run your video to a trial audience. In my little example here, it's about 100 people. Okay? And so sitcoms have often had pilot programs and pilot audiences. And if the pilot audience likes the TV show, it gets to be a series. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's the world you're in. So that video goes to those first roughly 100 people, depending on the size of your account, and some variables like that. But it's usually a pretty small test audience. And this is for all the platforms now, by the way. So it goes to those people, and what you're being tested on, the rules of the game, the points of the game are, do those people love that video? And of those people, who loves that video? Okay? So they're trying to find those two things. So number one, if those 100 people, if none of them care, they don't like it, they don't actually watch it, they just swipe by, they don't send it to a friend, they don't comment, they don't do anything to tell the algorithms, this doesn't suck, then you're done. Game over, you lost. Move to the next post. And that's part of the game too, by the way. We're going to all have some stinkers sometimes, but not knowing that how we have to win is why that happens more often than it should. Okay? So it goes to those 100 people. Now, besides the identifying did someone like it or not, second thing they're looking for is who. So what they've identified all of us in these multiple groups that we live in. So whether that's your age, your demographic, your psychographic, your interest of all types, okay? And so let's say of those 100 people, 30 people did something. They watched the whole thing, they shared it with a friend, they took a positive action, said to the algorithms, this is cool, okay? So those people, now the algorithm is doing the second step of its thing. Who are those people? What do they look like? And I don't mean actually look like, but look like to the algorithm and how it has those people mapped out. So what's going to happen now if you pass the test? If a group of that audience liked your video, they're going to pass it to the next group. So in my example, it goes from 100 to 500. That varies quite a bit, but I'll say this is an extremely common scenario. So guess what happens now at the 500? Exactly the same thing. It's running another pilot audience, trying to determine, do people like it? So how good is your video? It was good enough to get by 100. Is it good enough for a bigger group? Let's see. Okay, so it's checking that out, and it's testing itself on the who. So it's still kind of open-minded. If a percentage of those people loved it, but the rest didn't, they might let you go through because they might identify, oh, we weren't quite right on who is going to love this video. So they might give you another try. But again, at this point, I want you to understand, if you don't win either one of the tests, if they don't find people who like it and where to send it next, game over, post done. Everybody here has probably been in 500 view jail or 100 view jail or whatever you want to call it, where post goes, stops, flat lines. And this is what's happened. It's not a mystery, that's the rule. Now, we get past it, we go up a little higher. And depending on, again, your account, your history, things like that, this could go much more rapidly in the growth. The other thing that can happen is, you might see a post go slow and then pick up way later. That means the algorithm needed more time to find the right people. Now, I keep talking about the algorithm, which, if you've ever heard, there's a saying YouTube uses all the time. We should always replace that word with audience, because essentially, as I'm telling you, it's a pilot program. It's real people. The algorithm doesn't really care about your video. What they care about is serving those people. So it's the other thing that is this central truth you have to accept is YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram don't care about your video, about your account, about you as a creator. That's not their priority, at least. What their priority is making the viewer happy, making the viewer watch more videos, spend more time on their platform so they can serve more ads. So you're just a piece of that whole thing. You have to be honest, that's what your job is your job is to be good entertainment, information, whatever you want to say, that will keep people enjoying their experience on that platform. That's what your content has to win. So if we get past that, we keep growing and we keep growing, and at any point, maybe it's 100,000 views, if you lose, if the algorithm is determined, okay, we've exhausted the audience that we think this would be right for, it stops. Now, I also want to point out something there for a lot of you sitting in this room. If that may be a 50,000 or a 20,000 or 100,000 view video, might be something you should consider viral success. And what I mean by that is, I don't know what your business goals are. I hope you do. But if you're just trying to build a loyal audience to sell product to or something like that, it doesn't have to be the whole world. It just needs to be the right group of people, and you can make a lot of money if the right group of people discover you, like you, and get to know you through this experience. So don't always, as I talk about being more viral, being more successful, I want to be clear, I'm not talking about a vanity numbers game. All I care about is that you can get your content in front of the people that will want to know about you and that you want to reach. To me, that's success. And yeah, I hope it goes all the way and 500,000 million views. And I think there's probably a lot of people in this audience that have done that or can do that. But it's not always the most important thing. I just want you to be successful to get through the test and actually reach the people you want to reach. So the question I have for you guys, that's the truth. That's the foundational understanding of the most successful creators in the world. And so before I move on and tell you what to do with that, I want you to ask yourself a question. Have you been living by that? Did you understand it? And did you actually follow the rules? Or are you thinking, well, I want to say this? Because this is what my clients do to me all the time. They call me up and say, we want to make a video to tell everyone what we want to say. They're thinking about that, and that's a mistake. Okay, and we'll get a little deeper into that in a second. But what are you thinking about when you think of the rules? Did you understand that your audience, is the test group, and you have to make them happy? You have to let the algorithm see that they're happy. So just be honest with yourself. Where are you at on that paradigm of how good you are at accepting that? Because the better you are at focusing on that, and some of the tools I'm going to give you, you can be very, very successful, and you'll be able to maximize whatever the reach potential is of what you do. So we now know how you win, okay? So the question I have, let's put the test back to you again to be honest with yourself, is think about the post that you just made, the last post that you did. What was your thought process? What led you to that post? Were you thinking about your customer? Do you think, as you sit here now, was it fair to hope that it would reach a bunch of people? Or, if you're really honest about it, should we consider that what that would be, what I would call, is a filler post? It was really a post to post. It was a post to say what you wanted to say, but really, if you understood and accepted the rules as I defined them, you would have known before you ever posted that it wasn't going anywhere. Because what I find is most people, if they're honest, they know that what they do most of the time is filler posts, just to post. And we'll get back to this at the end, but I'm going to say right now, I am not telling you you should never do a post and say something you want to say about your business or your life. It's fine. I'm not saying that everything you ever do shouldn't be a killer post, or it should be a killer post, or shouldn't be a filler post. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I want you to be honest with yourself and know when you're posting, what are you doing? Is it for the purpose of growing your business, for growing your reach? And let's make sure if that's the case, we're spending the right amount of time and effort to do that. And so what we're going to talk about today is going from filler post to killer posts. Okay, so a killer post, as I define it, is a post that you do where all of the mindset that you have is on the audience. It's a post that you do that it's realistic to believe that it can go through those tests, it can win through those tests, and it can move to, again, whatever size audience is realistic and ideal for you. So what we're going to try to accomplish when we start now moving to the pillars is we're going to make sure that you're going to be able to do more killer and less filler. That is something, if you go and you look at the accounts, whatever account you admire, okay, whoever you see doing well, I want you to really go back and look at their posts in this perspective. And because I think what you'd see is if you looked at the posts that did well and you just pretended you didn't see the numbers, you didn't see how many views they had, you could probably, if you're being honest, if you understand the rules of the game, you could probably predict that that would have been successful. And you could see others and you predict that they'd have no chance. What you'll see is the better accounts, they are always posting something that has a chance to be a killer. And so that's what I'm wanting from you guys today, is give you the ability to understand what it takes to put a post out there that has that potential and have a system to where your content creation, your development of content is not about, I have to do this. This is not a hamster wheel we're on, because that no longer works. It used to work when it just went to your friends and followers. Everybody who followed you saw it. There was some benefit to filler posts because your followers saw it. So here's the shocking thing, another truth a lot of people don't understand, is that whole thing I put you through there, the chart, the going up or down or not moving, it applies to your followers and subscribers as well. The platforms no longer just send your stuff, your filler, to all of your audience. I'm sure most of you could probably verify the average is about 3 to 5% see your post when they suck. Okay, that's really what it boils down to. But when you do a good post, you get through more of your subscribers, followers, whichever platform it's on, and you get the more benefit from those people who are already your fans to some degree, plus you get reach to new people. The other thing I want to point out before we go into the pillars is for some of you guys looking at the rules and starting now processing this, some of you are probably not that happy with the fact that this is where social media is today. Now, as the oldest guy in the room, perhaps, or one of the oldest guys in the room at doing this, I want to tell you, we're in the best time ever. Because 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if you didn't have a big audience that you could bring to Facebook or some of these places, it was so hard to grow. It was so hard to do a post, because if you had 1,000 followers, the best that you'd get is 1,000 views. And maybe a few of their friends get to see it. Today, everyone in this room today could go over there to the NAMM show and do one great post and get 1 million views. That's the time we're living in, and that's the perspective I want you to have, is success is available to you. And we manage accounts with millions of followers. We manage accounts with thousands of followers. And I assure you, the biggest post we'll have today, tomorrow, the next day, I cannot predict based on the size of the account. And again, I don't look at that as a bad thing. I look at that as a great thing. You perform well, you can do well, which is pretty cool. All right, so move on to the 4 pillars that we're going to build on top of this foundation, okay? So I'm going to jump right into pillar number 1. I kind of mentioned it before because it's one of the most common mistakes that I see with most people on social media. I never see with successful people on social media. And that is, you've got to make videos or posts of any sort for your target audience, not for you. So what I mean by that is, if the way you start your process is, here's an example I get all the time. We have our X year anniversary coming up, for our business. We're 10 years old, 50 years old, 100 years old. We want to start doing posts about that. It's the wrong motivation, because the people, that are going to be out there trying to watch that post, do they care that you just had a 60th anniversary? Some do. Now, can you tell a story woven into that 60th anniversary that is for them, that's interesting to them? Absolutely, you can. Whether that's funny old videos of you, with a mullet or whatever, there's ways that it can be done. So you could probably hit any topic you want to if you're creative. So I'm not saying you can't talk about what you want to talk about, but for me, I literally get people constantly asking me to do a video to talk about a thing that they just want to talk about. Think about your audience. So what we would consider that as an audience-first mentality. And again, I'm going to go back to pointing you to the top 10% of creators that you admire. So, I keep going back to that because you don't need to believe me. The evidence of all the things I'm showing you, it's all over your feed. You just have to decode it and know what you're looking for. Again, go back to successful creators that you admire. Look at their posts. Are they audience-centric or are they me-centric? Are they, I want to tell you about my day or my thing? Again, that worked in the old days, and a few people have carried over some ability from the old days. You don't see new creators having the same success because that isn't as good. It's got to be entertaining or informative or something that's good for your audience. So pillar number 1 is just simple. Make videos for your target audience. Now, that's all the time I spend on pillar number 1, but the reason is that the good news, each of these pillars, they build on each other. So we're going to be talking about this a lot as we go through, but just in some other context. So pillar number 2, and this is the one that I would say that I rarely find anybody who comes to me looking for help on their social media that even understands this a little. So this might be the most new thought process you'll get today, is prioritizing ideation. Remember I asked you earlier, how much time did you put into thinking about that post you were going to do today or tomorrow? And the answer, you answered yourself, probably not that much. And how much thought of the audience, which we just went through, probably not that much. So combining those things and getting you awesome at ideation is going to be a key to success. So my goal for you, by the way, stated homework goal, is to increase your idea to action ratio. So let me explain that. If you think you want to post 30 videos or 30 posts next month, you need a list of not 30 ideas. You need a list of 90, 120, 500 ideas. The higher the list of ideas that you have that you've been working on gradually to work from, the better you can pull when you want to do that next post. Because what happens if you get a chance to kind of percolate on something, much better chance you're going to figure out how to do it well. And when you have a lot of options, it's a much better chance you're not going to do something that you know sucks. So this is about giving you confidence and giving you the ability to do what it takes to be successful. So now we'll get a little tactical, little kind of more specific with this. I want to take a little time and give you guys some primers to help you think about ideation and how to do it. Okay? So I'll start here with just some basic themes, if you will, things that I'm sure you've seen if you spent any time on social media at all, is concepts that I want you to apply your product, service, personality, whatever to this. But let's say, I'm sure you've seen this, do this instead of blank, okay? So if you make a video that's giving someone an alternative perspective, that can be entertaining, and perhaps, depending on what you do, and I'm gonna give you a bunch of examples, so if this doesn't fit you, don't worry, it's fine. So do this instead of that would be one idea, one concept starter, primer. Or the number one trick for X, whatever your thing is, fill it in there. Call me crazy, but I just bought this. Now, those are just 3 really simple things. Would any of them apply to you? You know, again, throw them out if they don't. I'm not trying to sell you on any of these ideas. I want to show you how easy it is to find these things to get you started, and then you come up with killer videos. So I bought the cheapest product on whatever. Why is everyone talking about this song, this person, this what product? Try this if you're struggling with this pain point. Think about all those things. Do they apply to you? Can you find a way to take the service, the product, whatever you do, and apply it to something like that? So here's another one, cheap versus expensive. 10 years of blank, and this is what I learned. So I like that example because everyone here has, whatever you're talking about, you have more experience than somebody. So maybe you haven't been doing whatever it is you talk about for 10 years, but the perspective of, in my first year of being a CPA, this is what I learned, it's a different entertainment value than I've been a CPA for 10 years, here's what I learned, or a drum teacher, or any other thing you can think of. So that could apply to a lot of people. This stupid trick helped me do whatever, achieve a goal. Top reason people regret, pick it. 99% of beginners don't know this. These are, again, just primers. And so you look at that, that was, I think, 11 different ideas that just rattled off. And so here's what I want you guys to get to, is I want you to see these things. You know that old movie that's, where the kid says, I see dead people, right? I want you to say, I see ideas. Everywhere I go, see a trailer for a movie, that should give you an idea. You see somebody else's video, that should give you an idea. You walk by anything, Starbucks, there's got to be some idea in that madness. And so I want to make sure you guys get, again, great at ideation. And that is a secret that you're going to find the biggest creators in the world have. Now, so here's a couple. These, I just picked random videos that were in my feed and just screenshotted them. And so, again, in this idea of you spotting ideas everywhere. So the first one, 6 craziest phone chargers. Maybe nobody in here makes videos about tech and that would apply to a phone charger. No problem. What is it that you do, right? There's got to be 6 crazy somethings or some way that this could be an idea that helps you. The pricing variations, comparing a $600 guitar, or $60,000 guitar to a $400 guitar. That's easy to apply. Something within your world applies to that. Other pricing things, multi-scale versus regular. So again, whatever you have, this versus that, passive versus active, whatever you're talking about. The history of, in this case, electric guitar, the history of whatever you do. So ideas are everywhere. This is a $100 pick, and it sounds blank, right? Same, much like the primers, just ideas that are out there in the universe, ready for you to be inspired by them. I'm not talking about stealing, not talking about copying, inspired by them. So what we're going to do to get your idea list up to your action list down, if you will, is we're going to have your goal is to have a huge, massive list of concepts, okay? So I'll show you what they look like for me, and this is how we teach our team and our various clients deal with this, is it's a simple idea. An idea hits you, you put the idea on whatever you use. Notion, Google Doc, doesn't matter, whatever you use. And you just put those ideas up there, and if there's a note, if you will, that would remind you later of how you'll apply it, put that. That's it. And if you don't have a note, if it's just like the primer ideas I showed you, and you just thought, I don't know how I'm going to use this, I just want it to remind me of an idea for later when I might have a different perspective, that's okay too. Write it down, Okay? And we'll come back to the idea list later, but have a massive idea list. Now, where do you get ideas other than, let's say, some of the primers I gave you? So one of the places I like to look is platforms. So I go to YouTube. So this is just a screenshot, again, of just a basic discovery homepage on YouTube, which, what are they doing? They're surfacing videos for an individual that they think this might be interesting to you. So again, I'm not suggesting that you take the idea and do the idea, but whatever your interests are, if you're interested in fishing, there will be videos about fishing that you can apply to whatever you do. You know, if you happen to be a teacher of, a piano, you might come across a fitness instructor or something like that with an idea that you can then go, how does that apply to me as a piano teacher? And so I look at these things, and then sometimes I'll even, across the top there, you've got that, the bar of, like, you can filter, and they'll even go even more narrow. Let YouTube, let TikTok do some work for you. Let them put stuff forward. But again, I'm not even looking at this from the context of I want to steal an idea. I'm not looking for a ready-made packaged idea, and I don't want you to either. I want you to look for inspiration. I want you to be awesome at that. So the other place I look is if there's either a competitive brand, or if you're in just a personal brand, a content creator that you find similar to you, or the example I gave earlier, I love going to what I would call adjacent categories for inspiration. So if you you go back to the piano teacher, if you're a piano teacher, you might not find any good ideas if you're just looking at piano teacher content. But look at anybody else that's teaching anything, language teachers, math teachers. The harder it is to teach the thing, the more, if you see a video do well in that, man, that's probably a good concept. Because that's what we're looking for, guys, is concepts that will have the potential to do well. But here on, like, YouTube, for instance, I can go to something like the Andertons page, and I can then click over to that video tab, and not only can I see their recent videos, but I can click that popular button, and I can see their best performing videos. So this is a really easy way to go find their top performers, or what we would call outliers, okay? So an outlier outperformed their other videos. Does that teach me something? Is it going to inspire me, okay? You could do the same thing. I click over to Shorts, and I can, go there and look at, if you're looking at short vertical content, I can look for similarly, I can look for the top performers there. Let that inspire me, okay? So now, you could do that same thing on all the platforms. TikTok has a similar setup on that. It's up this today, right? Yeah. So just hurry up and do it. Yeah. Instagram has various discovery. So everything I just said, you can go do on any platform, and it can constantly keep ideas flowing. But as I said before, if you're going to really get awesome at this, if you want to be a world-class top 10% creator, you should see ideas everywhere. If it's limited to just when you spend time actually studying, you probably have a finite amount of time. When you get to where these things are everywhere and you're willing to just write them down as soon as you think of them, it's going to make all the difference in the world. I can tell you with our clients, when we start with them, it's terrible at first trying to figure out how to make a good video because we haven't started ideating yet. We haven't got that ideation process going, even within our team that's experienced at this, because we don't know their product, we don't know their voice, we don't know what might be interesting. It takes us time to kind of get warmed up. And so you guys, you're not going to go away from here going, now you're the master at ideation, but you can start to go to the gym, do the reps, get good at it. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that if you go to somebody like Mr. Beast, who I would argue is the best creator, of our time, and probably a pretty good guy to listen to, he does this all the time. The video on the left there, that was somebody who has a channel, not that big of a channel, that does like virtual stuff in a video game, like a lo-fi video game. And so their team spotted that this car versus huge pit virtual thing had done very, very well, performed well. So they said, hey, there's some inspiration. Why don't we go ahead and get a real train in a real pit, and we'll see what happens. You can go watch that video. It's pretty interesting. But I'm not saying you have to go to that extreme, but my point is he's not coming up with ideas for these 100 million view videos out of thin air. He's doing the same thing I'm recommending that you do. And I talked about learning from the best. I've done this, so you can go do it, is go find every darn podcast or interview that Mr. Beast has done over the last 5 years talking about how he builds his business. You can't find one where he doesn't say that ideation is the most important thing that he does. Getting good at that is what he credits as one of the biggest things that changed his channel from a nothing channel to a something channel. Again, same secret for everybody. So that's pillar number 2. We got to prioritize ideation, okay? Now let's move on to pillar number 3, which is we're going to look for proven viral potential. So we got an idea, but is it good? Is it going to work? Is there a reasonable chance that that test that I showed you earlier, that it's going to win? So what is proven viral potential? What that is looking for clues, proof actually, that this concept, just the concept, has actual potential. Okay? So the way I would do that, so I'll give you some tactical ways to do it, and we'll kind of go through these, is we want to find high-performing videos. Got to find them, and we've just shown you some examples of that. We've got to confirm that they outperformed, and I'll explain that in a second. And we want to find other similar videos to make sure we know how likely is it that this can go viral, that this can be a big success. So here's how that works. We'll go back to Anderton's for just a second. And when we were looking at their most popular videos in just our normal ideation process, the Rosewood versus Maple fretboard video caught my eye. And so for one of our channels, we went, I like that topic. That could be interesting. Maybe we could pursue it in other ways. It could be maple top on a guitar versus whatever. It could be torrefied versus spruce on an acoustic. But how did people like that? Okay, now, first I got to make sure of is, was this really a hit? Because if every video that these guys make get 550,000 views, and this one got 477, is it a success? It's not, but to me, it might look like one. So the first thing I've got to do is I got to go and look at some of how popular their other videos are. So here I looked at some of their more recent videos to see what is their average views. And so I could see, my math's not great, but I could see from that it doesn't average 477,000 views. And so I could say, okay, that was a legit success. The concept is still viable. Now I want to see, have other people done the same concept and had some success? So here in YouTube Shorts, I look at it and I see one more video on the topic that got 647,000 views from Mike Episcopo. I see a couple other ones that did okay. Those are not barn burner numbers, but so I start to look at those people and how it did. I then go to YouTube. In this case, you could do all this on TikTok, you can do all on Instagram. So in this case, I'm going to YouTube long form now and going, hey, what about as a long form video? How's that do? So put that up there and I see, well, that looks like we've got some evidence there that there's interest in this concept. So, the one on top there, I could see that 70,000 views, not bad. And in this case, I have a tool that I use, an add-on toolbar, that I can see this was 38 times more views than they typically get. So again, I'm seeing that word that I mentioned earlier, outlier. It's performing 10 times better than average, which to me is just verifying the concept, okay? The one below, you can see, only has 1,600 views. Red flag, perhaps? Maybe this isn't as interesting as I thought, but 245 subscribers at the time, and I can see that it outperformed his other videos by 7.8 times. So in fact, that's a really good confirmation. If somebody that doesn't have an audience, wasn't getting a lot of views on their videos, they did this and it went 7 times greater than average. It's like, okay, that means the concept is good. Now, I'll do more digging, make sure I see how they presented it and so forth, but the concept is good. So I looked at this in a few different places, and the long story short is it seemed to pan out there. So it's like, okay, this is working. Now, here's an interesting, understanding how you might want to do this research. When I go to TikTok, okay, so remember, the first video I found was a short vertical video. It was actually the one at the bottom there. On TikTok, I didn't find any viral success, none. And even that video got 3,000 views. Now, if TikTok's the most important platform to you, you could look at this and say one of two things. One is, certainly it's not a proven success here, and so you could assume I can do it better for TikTok, and I found gold. Or you can go, it's not good on TikTok. TikTok's important to me. I shouldn't do this. So I can't give you a one answer for how you would do the proven success formula, but this is the way you have to start thinking about it, is you're looking for clues in various places and deciding, does this have the best potential? So go back to Mr. Beast and that example earlier. The thing I want to point out is that other video was 3 years ago, and it had 7.5 million views, outperformed that channel by 30 times. So before Mr. Beast bought a train and dug a pit, he checked this out. Now, again, you're probably not going to buy a train, you're probably not going to dig a pit, but that's what matters to him. And so 1 year ago, so 2 years later, he made this and got 245 million views. So looking for the evidence first, making smart decisions. Your time is valuable. And so the thing I want to help you guys do today, this is what great creators do, is they spend more time on the stuff that matters. More time on killer, less time on filler. So we've got to go back to that list that I shared before. We're going to find high-performing videos. That's going to be our ideation process, really. Okay, we got our idea. Then we're going to make sure they outperformed, that they're really high-performing videos, that we aren't being fooled. And then we're going to find other similar videos to double-check. Okay? Now, when we have that, we're going to go back to that idea list that I showed you guys earlier. And over to the right part of that, I have this thing that I call viral validation. And I'll show you my formula. Yours might be different, but you can get an idea of what kind of information you can gather. Now, one thing I'll say to you guys, I don't fill all this in every time I have an idea. That's something I do with like an hour I spend on ideation time. I'll go back and research some. But before I make a video, before I let my team spend any time or money on anything, we've got to do something to sort out whether this is worth doing. So the first thing I look at is fit. And so fit is just more of, do I feel like it fits my channel? And I rate that, in my case, on a scale of 1 to 10. And that's just a matter of making sure that the channel branding is in line. Because again, if I get a lot of ideas, I don't have to do silly stuff that doesn't fit my channel. That's the other benefit of the ideas. I'm not suggesting that you have to start dancing because that's the only video that you see that proves that it's viral. No. If you start getting really good at ideation, you'll find ideas that work for you, that work for your fit. Now, floor and ceiling, what I do there is personally, I look at the data I've collected and I estimate what I think, how bad could this be? How good could this be? And that helps me decide, when I have this long list of ideas, which one might I choose? Okay? So for me, that helps me make decisions on where I'm going to invest my time and effort. So I have more beginners typically start with actually putting in there what they've seen. So in other words, the floor is the lowest number of count video that they found. So I think I had seen one up there for 1,600, was one example of that one video. So that would go in there. So you could either do real or you could do your guess. Biggest is literally just what was the biggest video I found on this topic. Difficulty is one I suggest you think about. How hard would this be to make this video? Because in the end, you have a bunch of ideas, you have X amount of time, so you could make one video that's less proven to be viral, that takes very little time and feels really good. That'd be fine, right? Because the risk reward, pretty good. On the other hand, what I don't want you doing is swinging for the fences on something that has no chance. Like a success is like 500 views. Why would you do that? So really the difficulty, understand how hard it is something that you would want to have. Feel is the last one I put in, and that's just, am I excited about doing this? Because this is work, Burnout is real. And so what I don't want you doing is I don't want you spending all your time making content you hate and that you feel like you're just pushing it because Tracy got up on stage and told me to do this. No, that's one of the counterbalances to this. We've got to find stuff. We're going to give you as many ideas as possible, so in the end, you can do what works and you can like doing it. That's pillar number 3, having a proven viral potential. Now we're going to move on to number 4, one of my favorites, which is becoming a master scroll stopper. Okay? And because here's another thing, you're not going to find a successful creator out there that can't successfully get people to stop and watch. Because here's the thing, if they don't stop, they don't watch. It's really simple. And so I have people that spend all their time on a concept but never stop to think why, even if it's a great concept, think about how little bit of time you have as people scroll, right? People scroll all day long. And you barely get their attention. If you're going to have a concept that works, the first thing you got to do is convince them that it will work. Just to give you some, I read these stats, I had to share them. So the average person now scrolls 519 inches a day, 43 feet, size of a semi-truck. And it's a Statue of Liberty size scroll in a week, and Eiffel Tower in a month. That's what you're competing with, okay? You're not going to be successful unless you understand that when they're scrolling, this is what you're up against. Now, the good news is most of that sucks. So having some degree of focus on getting better and doing this well, doing this one thing well, stopping the scroll, having a good idea, this is where you can stand out, top 10%. So becoming a scroll stopper. Let's talk about how we're going to do that. So I'm going to show you, I put together a little combination of videos. These are intros only of 10 high-performing videos. And I just want you to watch it, just get a sense of what a video intro that tells you why to watch looks like.
1 cent knife all the way to a $3,000 knife. What's the difference?
Don't make this mistake when you're working on your own happiness.
Can you cook steak in a toaster? Because I'm cooking crazy foods like popcorn, mac and cheese, and french fries.
Hey, I'm the owner of Dimey's Defense Kits, and I'm here to show you that you do not need a mega budget to build your online brand.
4,000 years ago in ancient Egypt, these two brothers competed to build 2 pyramids, and the winner would win a lifetime of riches from the pharaoh. This is what happened.
I have a question. Why can't a robot just click, "I'm not a robot"? Turns out that the answer to that question is part of a bigger story about being human.
Tech in the Vegas sphere is insane. Biggest screen ever built, 20 times bigger than an IMAX. But get this, the screen is actually the least impressive part of the whole thing, because the most impressive part is the audio.
Here's 2 things socially confident people do.
This Gibson guitar model went from flashy launch to this.
I'm going to make a phone case for $0, and then we're going to drop test it.
You just saw 10 intros. Now, first question I want to ask you, have you answer yourself, is do you already feel like you'd like to see the rest of some of those videos? Probably so. And number 2 is, do you have a pretty good idea about what the promise that intro made that was going to be fulfilled in the rest of that video? In other words, the why to watch. Every one of those intros was in very crisp, quick time, told you what you're going to see and why you should watch. That's what we have to do to stop that scroll. So here's a video that my team produced, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples of just intros, because I want you to see different ways that we can go about doing this, tell people what they should watch or what they're going to get.
We put together a G and B bending Telecaster for $600. Here's how.
What do you think you're going to see? It's pretty straightforward, right? It's going to be a video about that particular topic. So very, very clear. Jens here is, this one's fun. You're going to think there's no audio, it's not working, but it's because there's no audio needed. This is super simple, but you know what you're going to see. That's it. When you make a video, are you that crisp, are you that clear of why I should watch and what I'm going to get? Probably not. So let's go back to our friends at Anderton's video that we were using before. So Rosewood versus Maple. We know that was a viral, or say an outperforming hit for them. How did they get the scroll to stop? So let's watch what they did.
Rosewood versus Maple.
That was it. Rosewood versus Maple. Now think about it for just a second. Probably have a lot of guitar players in here, probably a lot of people that understand all the things there are to understand about that conversation. Here's what we would be tempted to do. In that first part, we would go, oh, there's been, for years and years and years, there's been people that have wondered, is rosewood better than maple, and blah, 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 right? And you're gone, swipe. But what they did was, rosewood or maple? They stopped the scroll. Then they went on to instantly play the product, give you the demo, deliver value early, okay? So that's what a good scroll stopper does. Now, I don't want to leave out the long-form video creators in here, so I'm going to go back to Mr. Beast for a second, who's pretty good at long-form video. And so I want you to watch just the beginning of a couple of videos. You're not going to see their thumbnails, titles. Just want you to see, do you know what this is about?
I just built this bunker, and these two people who have never met each other are going to attempt to live down here for the next 100 days.
Okay, here's the next one.
We're now stranded on this deserted island in the middle of the ocean, and we're going to be stranded here for the next 7 days. And that boat that just left was our only way out of here.
Both cases, you didn't need the title, didn't need the thumbnail. Mr. Beast is a celebrity. You're going to probably watch his videos if you are interested in him at all because he made one and he posted it. But he doesn't take chances on that. He actually sits around, this is the thing after ideation he spends the most time on, is what's going to happen those first 7 seconds to get you to know what you're going to see and want to see it. He's building intrigue, he's building interest, he's building this, I mean, the part at the end about the boat leaving and they're stuck. He's driving home a point that there's some drama here for you to see, and he's doing it in under 10 seconds. That's what we have to do. That's what I want you to be good at. Let's go and look at another short example here. So this is Jenny Hoya's really great shorts maker, good one to learn from. But I want you to watch how she sets this up to make you, to interest you, to get you, draw you in.
Can you cook steak in a toaster? Because I'm cooking crazy foods like popcorn, mac and cheese, and french fries. There's a lot of smoke coming out. And I have this just in case. Is something burning? I'm just cooking.
Again, that was about 7 seconds. What we've got in that period of time is she's told you the core concept is, can you cook steak in a toaster? We all know that. She said that in about 2 seconds. She showed you, she told you. Then she raised the stakes to say, I'm going to show you if these other things can be cooked in a toaster. And then she raised the stakes a little bit more, showing a fire extinguisher and her dad smelling smoke, right? So this is all in a few seconds. Is it worth you spending the next 50 seconds to watch the rest of that video? Absolutely. Now, understand, I know I'm showing you a bunch of videos here that maybe are at a level of entertainment and focus on entertainment that doesn't apply to you. And I'm not suggesting everyone in here needs to start doing that either. It's just the goal of being that clear, having a good idea, best idea you have that applies to you, having a good idea, and don't waste it by burying it in a bunch of crap. Go ahead and put forward why I should watch. Tell me why to watch. If they don't stop, they don't watch. And that's what I want you guys to, again, go away from here. It's another key takeaway is if I can get you to be scroll stoppers on good concepts, we got something. What I want you guys to do is get better at what? More killer? Anybody know? Thank you. All right. I love audience participation. So that's the key, and that's what we see with these folks who are super successful. So those pillars again, we're going to create for your target audience. We're going to prioritize ideation. We're going to focus on making videos that we know can work and be successful. And we're going to stop the scroll. We're going to be masters stopping the scroll. I want you guys to be stopping me at NAMM next year as I'm walking down the aisle. I want you to tell me how you've learned how to be an awesome ideator and awesome at stopping the scroll. And what you won't be telling me is, but then I'm still getting 500 views. The combination won't happen, right? So you get that and you're going to be successful. So in the last few minutes I want to give you guys a couple of just pro tips, things we see working that might add to what we had. So we've got our pillars. Let's just go back through a couple things. The one, because I've given you the big picture, the big things that I want you to spend most of your time on. But growing your audience is important, but you absolutely do need to also cultivate that relationship. So while I've been talking about this entire kind of killer post strategy, absolutely spend some of your time posting behind the scenes or things about you or whatever that your audience, that only your audience will like. Because at least platforms like Instagram, what they will do in their algorithm is they'll look at if your subscribers or your followers like this post, but other people don't, their algorithm will figure that out, and so you can have a post that does pretty well to your followers. So if you have something, you can cultivate the relationship, it's okay, spend that time. A couple of content hacks, because the other thing I was afraid of, I don't want everybody to go out of here thinking that I've just given you a whole lot of work you can't do. So we gotta have a few things that make content creation simpler and faster. So here's what I want you to do. If you've been posting at all in the last year, if you've started your business, your efforts here, I want you to go and find your top 10 posts. And then I want you to post them again. Just as they are, post them. Think about how much time that's going to save you, right? And the reason is only a small percentage of your followers, in the best case scenario, actually see it. Even fewer of them would remember. So use them, and every quarter, go back and do the same thing. That's what we do. We're literally, my team, while I'm here, is working on the last quarter for every one of our clients. We're about to repost the top 10 for every client because it's easy, right? And talk about proven viral success. We know those will be pretty good videos. Remake the top 5. So now that you're better at ideation, you've had a practice run at that, take another stab at some of those top 5 videos. Maybe that's just editing a little bit more, just cutting it down. But look for ways to do that. And the last one is to see if you can find something you can make a series, repeat it. You know, that rosewood versus maple concept, you could go and think about all the things this versus that. That would be what I call a series. Again, it's a little simpler to make a series once you get used to kind of the approach. Work with user-generated content if it applies to you. Work with content creators or influencers. You know, so those are ways to get external content going. Prioritize shares on Instagram. So the CEO has said himself, the most important thing now to a video performance is watch time, so how long somebody watches. By the way, if they don't stop, they don't watch, okay? And then number 2 is how much they share it. That's gonna determine your success. So make sure you make shareable content, which can be something like memes or tricks or something like that. The other Instagram hack I'll give you guys, for those of you interested in that, Instagram automation is going to have a big year this year. That's where you see somebody say, hey, if you want this 10% off thing, comment 10% off in the comments and I'll send it to you. So you can look that up. Instagram automation is something to learn and grow this year. I just want you to each understand that this is the mindset. This is the way to position yourself to win. And spend more time doing those things. Spend less time on that filler stuff, and you can have a really good business and a really good reach. And love to meet each one of you, either today or throughout the NAMM show, and wishing you a happy NAMM. Thank you.